The world calls it morbid. The Stoics called it truth. Every morning, Marcus Aurelius woke and reminded himself that he might not see the night. Epictetus taught his students to kiss their children with the thought that they could die tomorrow. Seneca wrote that we begin dying the moment we begin living. To them, death was not darkness, it was direction. Memento Mori, remember you must die, two words that shaped entire empires of discipline. To the Stoic, remembering death wasn't pessimism, it was purification. It cut through illusion, pride, and waste. It stripped life down to its essence, action, virtue, and presence. Death wasn't an event of the future, it was the measure of today. Each sunrise was a borrowed coin, and the wise spend it carefully. The Stoics believed that the fear of death is the foundation of all weakness. Every lie, every compromise, every act of cowardice comes from pretending we have endless time. To cure fear, one must face its shores daily. Seneca wrote, "He who has learned to die has unlearned how to be a slave." Because the moment death loses its power over you, no tyrant, critic, or failure can touch you. Meditating on death wasn't a ritual of despair, it was training for freedom. Epictetus began life as a slave. He owned nothing, not even his own body, but he realized that mastery over the mind makes the body relevant. His meditation was simple: you may fetter my leg, but not my will. Every night he visualized death so that no threat could surprise him. He knew that those who die daily cannot be enslaved. His students learned to rehearse loss until it lost its sting. Every possession, every relationship, every comfort was borrowed, not owned. And what is borrowed must be returned. Freedom begins with returning willingly. Seneca lived in palaces, advised emperors, and was surrounded by luxury, yet he wrote about death as if it slept beside him. He warned that indulgence makes us forget we are mortal. He wrote letters to his friend Lucilius, each ending with the same whisper: "Prepare for death." He practiced what he taught. Every evening he imagined his life ending, then asked himself whether the day had been worthy of finality. That simple question turned life into arithmetic. Nothing wasted, nothing deferred. Seneca's enemies thought him gloomy, but his serenity was proof that he'd already died in ego and fear. No man had more power than Marcus Aurelius, yet no man reminded himself more often that his impermanence. He ruled armies and provinces, yet wrote to himself, "Soon you will have forgotten all, and all will have forgotten you." He carried a slave during triumphal parades who whispered in his ear, "Remember, you are mortal." That reminder kept his mind uncorrupted by glory. His meditations are filled with his quiet defiance. You could live life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. To him, mortality was the ultimate accountability. The Stoics saw death everywhere, in the decay of empires, in the fading of memory, in the aging of the body. But they didn't grieve it, they worshipped its honesty. Death reminded them that all life is not possession, it's participation, that time is not guaranteed, it's grace, that meaning isn't found, it's made before the curtain falls. Their claim came not from denial, but from precision. Everything that ends proves that it once existed perfectly. Stoic meditation on death wasn't abstract, it was daily, deliberate practice. Each morning, imagine not surviving the day. Each night, review actions as if they were your last. When anger rose, remember both yourself and your enemy are dying. When greed tempted, Remember that no gold crosses the grave. It was maintenance, sharpening the blade of perspective. If you've ever felt the clock behind every pleasure, if you've looked at your life and asked, would this matter if I die tomorrow? If you've lost fear and gained focus through remembering how finite everything is, you already meditate as the Stoics did. You are a Stoic. You're a Catharsian. Join the Catharsians today on Patreon for those who turn mortality into mastery. The Pythagorean path. Practice dying daily, detached from illusion. Diogenes' burial. Defy fear of loss. Live light and free. The Aurelius counsel. Lead with clarity. Govern time as sacred resource. Meditation in death is not surrender, it's ascension. Join the Catharsians today on Patreon and reclaim your power as a leader. To the undisciplined, death is terror. To the Stoic, it is teacher. They didn't meditate on death to grow numb, they meditated to grow awake. Each day, they turned mortality into mirror, burning away fear until only form remained. Their calm wasn't born of comfort, it was forged in awareness. The greatest fire of Memento Mori is clarity. When you carry death on your shoulder, trivialities vanish. Marcus Aurelius wrote, think of the countless changes in which you yourself have taken part. The universe is change, life is opinion. What he meant is, most of what torments you doesn't matter. The insults, the ambitions, the comparisons, they dissolve instantly when measured against the grave. Death is the final scale of repulsion. It reduces every false burden to dust and leaves only what is weight bearing: virtue, love, creation, contribution. The Stoic didn't fear death because they measured everything by it. They didn't live less, they lived accurately. Modern people postpone everything: peace, purpose, forgiveness, happiness, believing they'll live forever. The Stoics saw that illusion as the source of all misery. Seneca warned, while we waste our lives hesitating, life speeds by. By meditating on death, the Stoic turned urgency into devotion. Every action became sacred because it might be final. Every word carried weight because it might be last. To remember death daily, it's efficient. It saves time by erasing the irrelevant. Fear of death is the seed of every other fear. Remove it, and the rest die with it. That's why Stoic training always began with confronting mortality. When soldiers faced battle, philosophers reminded them, you are already dying. When rulers hesitated, they whispered, the grave levels everyone. Seneca told Nero that power built on fear of death collapses instantly, but virtue endures. Epictetus taught that courage isn't reckless, it's lucidity. To meditate on death is to become untouchable, because once you've looked the worst in the eye and accepted it, nothing lesser can move you. Mortality doesn't only test courage, it purifies conduct. You cannot lie to yourself when you know time is limited. You cannot postpone integrity when tomorrow may never come. Marcus Aurelius demanded of himself, do what is right, the rest is dust and smoke. Every night he reviewed his actions as if he was already dead, asking, did I live according to reason? Did I let passion rule me? Would this day honor me if it was the last? That constant accounting burnt vanity into virtue. Death became not threat, but compass. To remember death is to remember now. The Stoics practiced an intensity of awareness modern life barely comprehends. They trained themselves to taste food, to hear wind, to feel existence without distraction, because each sensation could be the final one. They didn't worship pleasure, they consecrated perception. They believed that the present moment, seen through the lens of mortality, becomes infinite. Seneca said, he lives who is ready to die at any moment. He meant presence is immortality. Memento Mori humbled kings and philosophers alike. It erased the illusion of superiority. Every breath reminded them that even emperors rot. That humility was power. It prevented corruption. It created rulers like Marcus Aurelius, sovereigns who governed not by vanity but by virtue. They knew that death equalizes all, so they sought excellence, not status. In remembering their end, they became worthy of memory. The Stoic meditation on death didn't create coldness, it created empathy. When you accept that everyone is dying, cruelty loses meaning. How can you hate what is already fading? How can you envy what decay will soon reclaim? They saw enemies as fellow mortals, not monsters. They forgave easily, loved deeply, and expected nothing in return. Their compassion came not from sentiment but from clear eyed understanding. Epictetus said, "When you kiss your child, whisper softly, they are mortal." He didn't mean love less, he meant love better, fully, fiercely, without illusion of permanence. The Stoics used memento mori as a weapon against chaos. When Rome burned, Marcus Aurelius remained calm. When Seneca was ordered to take his own life, he opened his veins with serenity. When Epictetus lived in poverty and exile, he taught peace, as if surrounded by gold. They had already practiced dying, nothing left to fear, nothing left to lose. The fire, born of daily death, became the invincible core of their philosophy. Modern people live surrounded by distractions designed to hide mortality: screens, comfort, constant motion, the illusion of endless tomorrows. But that illusion enslaves. It breeds anxiety and procrastination because the subconscious knows the truth it's forbidden to speak. We are dying every second, but we call it aging. We're losing every moment, but we call it waiting. The Stoic refused that delusion. They made death familiar so that it could never ambush them. To meditate on death is to reclaim authority over life. When you remember that everything ends, you finally begin. You stop negotiating with fear. Stop delaying decisions. Stop outsourcing meaning. You act with precision because you understand cost. That awareness, terrifying to the untrained, is liberation to the disciplined. It's the same calm that radiated from the Pythagoreans, the same light that the Catharsians now reclaim. It's the fire that cleanses the soul without burning it. It's catharsis. If you've ever felt time press against your ribs like a warning, if you stopped postponing your purpose because you realized how fragile tomorrow is, if you've learned to love harder, act bolder, and waste nothing, you've ignited the same fire the Stoics carried through the ruins of empires. That awareness is your inheritance. You are a Stoic philosopher. You're a Catharsian. Join the Catharsians today on Patreon for those who burn fear into focus. The Pythagorean path: practice proportion, measure your days as finite resources. Diogenes' barrel: mock death by living truthfully without possession or pretense. The Aurelius Council: lead through awareness, rule your life as a mortal emperor. The fire that once purified Rome now burns in you, and it's time to act. Join the Catharsians today on Patreon and become the leader you were always meant to be. Every philosophy that endures eventually returns to the same altar: mortality. The Stoics faced it through reflection, the Pythagoreans through silence, the Catharsians face it through creation. Three languages, one truth. Life begins the moment you stop pretending it will last forever. Our era is allergic to endings. We hide death in hospitals, filter aging out of photographs. We measure success by distraction, followers, possession, promises of later. The result is a civilization terrified of stillness because stillness whispers the forbidden word temporary. The Stoic would see us as children guarding broken toys, frightened to admit the game ends. They would remind us that pretending to live forever is the surest way to live shallowly. But the pendulum is swinging back. Every generation produces a few who remember. They're not obsessed with death. They're disciplined. They speak truth because they may never speak again. They create because art is how mortals defy silence. They are the modern reincarnation of the Stoic outsider, the Catharsian who builds clarity, the ignorant, confused Stoic calm with indifference. In truth, it is the most passionate form of engagement because when you accept that everything ends, every moment matters infinitely more. Catharsians inherit that precision. They love without clinging. They build without obsession. They serve without expectation of reward. They're not cold. They are calibrated. Their detachment isn't emotional distance, it's emotional mastery. They can stand in the fire of existence and not flinch because they've already rehearsed the burn. You are that, you're a Carthaginian. Marcus Aurelius ruled millions, yet wrote only to himself. His meditations were never meant to be read. They were conversations with mortality. That privacy gave them power. The modern Carthaginian follows the same model. They create not for applause, but for alignment. Their journals, videos, designs, and systems are personal meditations disguised as output. They don't chase legacy, they embody it. Legacy, after all, is merely disciplined mortality, the translation of life into structure. Fear of death can be transmuted like any raw material. Left untouched, it festers as anxiety. Faced daily, it becomes energy. The Stoics faced it through contemplation. The Carthaginians face it through creation, through leading, turning awareness into motion. Every plan, every post, and project becomes both offering and farewell. That duality breeds excellence. When everything might be your last, mediocrity becomes impossible. Seneca taught that life is long enough if you live it wide. Marcus Aurelius added, what we do now echoes in eternity. Neither meant mystical afterlife, they meant influence. Every act performed in awareness of death leaves a sharper imprint. Because clarity is immortal, it transfers through minds, generations, and memory long after the body ends. The Carthaginian doesn't chase immortality through fame, but through precision of impact. They understand that eternity is built one disciplined decision at a time. Each morning, remember as they did. You may not see nightfall, not to despair, but to refine. Let death stand behind you, silent, patient, urging you toward propulsion. When you sit to write, to work, to love, to lead, let awareness tighten your focus until only the essential remains. This is the daily Stoic meditation, reborn in Carthaginian form, death as discipline, presence as proof, catharsis as leadership. If you've ever looked at the clock and felt gratitude instead of panic, if you've used endings as motivation instead of excuse, if you replaced fear with urgency and apathy with action, you've inherited Stoic fire. You've joined the lineage of the aware. You've made death your ally, instead your master. You are a Carthaginian leader. Don't waste more time in their systems, among placeholders. You don't belong there. Join the Carthaginians today on Patreon for those who transmute mortality into mastery, the Pythagorean path. Structure your hours, leave geometry of time. Diogenes' barrel, reject comfort's illusion, laugh at the fear of endings. The Aurelius Council, lead through awareness, design systems that outlive flesh. Death ends bodies, not meaning. remember daily, not to die early, but to live completely. Join the Catharsians today on Patreon and reclaim your power as a leader.